New expansion, it's Saviors of Uldum. The League of Explorers are here to save the day from evil. This expansion has 3 mechanics in it: Reborn, Plagues, and Quests, and we're gonna look right into what these are in the cards. Let's get into the cards. The Madman! We've got 8 cards to look at today. First one, the Druid Quest. Elise is going to be our resident druid. Untapped potential. Quest end 4 turns with any unspent mana. Reward Osirian tier. The reward is given to you immediately, so you are able to complete this as early as turn 4 if you're going second, and your first turn is untapped potential coin. The ideal way to play this would be to have spent a total of 5 mana on it, 1 mana now, and then 4 mana wasted across 4 turns. So I can already imagine the type of deck that would go with this quest because of the Dalaran heist boss. Wrath becomes insane. Both sides of Wrath are good, and if you get to cast both, I would say it's almost the equivalent of generating an extra card. Power of the Wild is pretty solid in the tokenish deck. Mark of the Loa becomes really insane. Usually it's either total of +2/+4 or 2/3/2s. The 2/3/2s are worth 6/4 stats. The 2/4 is worth 2/4 stats. If you combine those together, that's 8/8 in stats for 4 mana. Wow. You have Tending Torn, which is default 7/8 stats, but with the have both, it's at least 9/10 stats. Cenarius is obviously insane. By default, Cenarius is a 9/12 stats, but with both sides, it's at least a 13/16 stats. And who knows what other choose one cards are going to come in here. Now, I would say that the cost is greater than it looks. It's really easy to complete the quest, but if you imagine a normal game of Hearthstone, it's also really easy to lose if you start a card down and you start 5 mana down. It's quite flexible in how you can complete the quest. You don't have to complete in the first 5 turns, but boy does it drop off if you complete it later. Given that, perhaps this card will be played in a deck that plans to achieve the quest in the mid-late game and not rush for it, and only run the cards that are quite good. Wrath is already default kind of good, but maybe it's just aimed for exactly the Tending Torn Cenarius and Wardred Lodi, and perhaps other choose one cards that show up here. That seems most reasonable to me. Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron. 10 mana mage spell. Cast 10 random spells. Targets chosen randomly. It's Yogg-Saron on a spell in a box. And those are Reno's hands, indicating that Reno seems to be the mage explorer. So yeah, this definitely captures the flavor of Yogg-Saron, and the 10 random spells are always going off. But I'll remind everyone that Yogg-Saron was only good when the spells always went off. And this card is no Yogg-Saron, because while 10 random spells is around the amount that a general Yogg-Saron would cast, this card is nerfed by the fact that you don't start off with a 7/5. And yeah, the Yogg-Saron doesn't always survive, but it's like nerfing any card by 12 stats, and if you nerf any card by 12 stats, it's pretty bad. That might relegate this to meme status. But what a meme it is. You could cast any spells, including itself. Plague of Death, the Priest Mass AoE spell. It's out! 9 mana. Silence and destroy all minions. Such a card has constantly been theorized on custom Hearthstone cards. Basically, it's a Twisting Nether, which comes with a silence effect. But Twisting Nether is not often played because it costs too much as AoE removal. A Psychic Scream dealt with all of the minions for 7 mana, and also essentially silence them by shuffling them into the opponent's deck. If you nerf any card by 2 mana, it's rare that it's still good, and I feel that's the same way with Plague of Death. Psychic Scream came out at a moment just before you were able to die. You would cast it and then you could stabilize. Plague of Death easily could come out after you're dead. What we seem to be looking for is a way for Priest to actually win the game, and for Priest to win the game in a way that's better than Warriors winning the game. Priest needs that kind of inevitable value. Shaman has Evil Totem, a 2 mana 0/2 totem. At the end of your turn, add a lackey to your hand. So we finally have a good sense of how strong lackeys are. Turns out they were so strong that Evil Cable Rat, a 2-mana 1/1, Battlecry, add a lackey to your hand, was pretty powerful and was played in numerous decks. And so, how about a card that gets you a lackey at the end of every turn? Comes out faster than Mana Tide Totem, the lackeys are better than a card in the early game. Seems like a slam dunk win. There are likely going to be more lackeys printed in this expansion. I would expect the new lackeys to be as powerful as the original 5 or comparable, because otherwise the lackey generators would be really huge variants. So this card seems great in a early game focused shaman tokenish deck. The Warlock Quest, Supreme Archaeology. 1 mana, quest, draw 20 cards, reward. Tome of Origination, which replaces your hero power with Tome of Origination, draw a card, it costs 0 mana, 2 mana to use the hero power. So nothing like drawing 20 cards to get a hero power that draws cards. I think it is fair to say that for this card to be good, you would need to complete it at a fairly brisk pace, something like along the lines of turn 7, because otherwise you're not going to get enough benefit out of using the hero power, right? So if you plan to just play this in your usual handlock deck and, life tap your way into this eventually, on turn 14, if you're life tapping 6 times, that seems too slow. Plot Twist does speed up that timeline by 8 full turns, something like that. Less life taps too. I'd say if you Plot Twist once for 8 and you life tap 5 times, that's probably expected, which would be drawing 13 cards, which means you could complete this on turn 7. The high roll though is tap, tap, Plot Twist into another Plot Twist, and then you're like almost done with the quest right there. That requires quite a bit of fortune though in not only drawing the first Plot Twist, but also Plot Twisting into Plot Twist. Also, it's a little bit unfortunate if you run into all the Bomb Warriors while you're playing your Plot Twist deck for obvious reasons. But good news, if your Plot Twist does draw a bomb, when you draw the bomb, it's cast when drawn and then draw a card, which means drawing a bomb counts as 2 for Supreme Archaeology. Woo. The bad news is if you use the hero power Tome of Origination and you draw a card and it's the bomb, then you discount the bomb to 0 mana and then you draw another card. There are thoughts about using this with the Portal Generation cards, because those cards, the Fellhound Rush, when you draw that card, you draw another card with it, so it counts as 2 cards drawn. The bad news is when you get the improved hero power, if you draw the Fellhound Rush card with the Tome of Origination, then it discounts that to 0 and it auto casts and you draw another card. And that's bad. Restless Mummy is a warrior minion that features the new Reborn keyword. 4 mana, 3/2, Rush, and Reborn. Reborn minions resurrect to 1 health after they die. So this one is a really good use of Reborn in that a Rush card is good, but when it's 2 Rush cards in 1, that's especially good. This card compares to Multi-Shot because you can play the Restless Mummy, send it into a minion with maybe 3 health. Restless Mummy dies, Reborn with Rush as a 4 mana 3/1, you can send it into another 3 health minion. So targeted Multi-Shot, but that's not all. It can be a minion fireball. You play the Restless Mummy, you hit something with it, it reborns, you hit the same thing with it, you deal 6 damage to it. Wow. It's even better than Fireball against something with Divine Shield, because something with Divine Shield and 3 health you can actually kill with the Restless Mummy, whereas you can't with Fireball. And finally, there's a third mode you can play it in. You just play it as is, as a 4 mana 3/2, kind of like Piloted Shredder. If your opponent kills it, then they still have to deal with a 3/1. That's the least good use of it, but there are a lot of different ways. And you can even send it into something and then have it immediately be reborn as a 3/1. Against a number of classes, having a 3/1 on an empty board isn't bad. I think it's really cool that they decided to showcase a pretty powerful reborn card as the first reborn card here. One comparison that was pretty apt is this is like a flanking strike, 4 mana from Hunter because it does 3 damage, and then instead of summoning a 3/3, it summons you a 3/1 with Rush. And I would argue that a 3/1 with Rush is often better than a 3/3 in all cases other than an empty board, because you can immediately trade with the 3 attack minion. This card is so good, I feel like it already fits into the Control Warrior core. Town Crier is a very strong card. It fetches Rush cards. Militia Commander is often the best card that you can fetch with it, but now you can also fetch Restless Mummy. So now you can easily run 2 Town Crier and 2 Militia Commander and 2 Restless Mummy. That's a pretty strong rush package. And of course, Ziliax. Jar Dealer, 1 mana, 1/1, Death Rattle, add a random 1-cost minion to your hand. It seems a little bit comparable to Firefly. Gets you a 1-drop and then gets you perhaps another 1-drop, but not always next turn because of the Death Rattle. And blah. Not a bad card, kind of fillery, probably a little too weak to run in general. I can't imagine a deck that would run it. But if it does see play somewhere, it would be in Token Druid or Zoo. But obviously Token Druid has a card that's so much better than this, a 1 mana 2/1 that adds 2 1/1s to your hand. When you compare that with Jar Dealer, it's like, whew, you got a tough road in front of you, Jar Dealer. You're gonna have to be really good at your salesmanship. Finally, last but certainly not least, Questing Explorer. 2 mana 2/3, Battlecry. If you control a quest, draw a card. This card is really gonna tie quest decks together. Needless to say, 2 mana 2/3 draw a card is insane on a Battlecry. That's usually statted as a 2 mana 1/1 Novice Engineer. By the way, Novice Engineer was actually played back in the day with a certain quest, Quest Mage, just because you wanted to draw cards that fast. Imagine if instead of running a 1/1, you got to run a 2/3. Now, it's not strictly better than Novice Engineer in quest decks because after you finish your quest, it is just a 2 mana 2/3, which is pretty bad. But usually that's when your deck has taken over in power and you're relying on the quest to win the game. So not usually that relevant. It hasn't been stated that all the classes are going to get 1 quest, but I feel like it's pretty obvious that all of the classes will be getting a quest. That's your first look into Saviors of Uldum. I always think that the card reveal season is the most exciting season. I look forward to Saviors of Uldum, releasing August 6th.